Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Laura Ingeman, and this is your flash briefing for the week of September 2nd. City Council meet for regular session Tuesday night, 6 in Council Chambers in City Hall. Meetings are open to the public or watch live on the city's YouTube channel. If you can't watch, catch the recorded meeting on demand on the YouTube channel or by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Get excited for falling leaves and pumpkin spice season. The Fall Open House in downtown Lee Summit is this weekend, September 6th and 7th. Businesses will feature new items for autumn, and local restaurants will offer fall-themed food and drink specials. Learn more at downtownls.org. Stay connected with the city. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Already do and enjoy the videos you've been seeing? Then head to our YouTube channel and hit subscribe to see similar content. The city is seeking individuals interested in contributing to discussions that will influence property maintenance code enforcement within the city. Ideally, participants would have firsthand knowledge of Lee Summit through residency, business ownership, or property management. Submit interest by September 10th on the city's website at cityofls.net. And a reminder, city offices are closed today, September 2nd, for the holiday. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Hello, I'm Colin McCage, and I'm here to show you how to test and adjust the water pressure in your home. Testing water pressure in a home can protect its plumbing. First, check the fixtures to see if they are leaking or if there is debris in the aerator or faucet. If no issues are found around the plumbing or fixtures, test the home's water pressure. Ensure there is no water use inside your home. Locate your front water spigot. Place a water pressure gauge on the spigot. An ideal water pressure for your home is 40 to 80 psi. Contact water utilities about the water pressure issue before adjusting. To adjust your water pressure, locate your home's pressure reducing valve, or PRV. Loosen the lock nut on the PRV with a wrench. Loosen or tighten depending if you want more or less water pressure. Tighten the lock nut once you have your desired water pressure. Thank you for watching. For more information and questions, go to lswater.net.
So many of our past successes were made possible by understanding the multitude of perspectives in our community. When we take the time to see the world through someone else's eyes, we enrich our own understanding and foster an environment where everyone can thrive. When I see the renovations we've made to our parks, I see an investment not just in essential infrastructure, but in people that builds community and directly impacts the physical and social well-being of our residents.
I see equity, inclusive playgrounds where people from all walks of life can come together.
I see a place to play.
When I see the development we have helped facilitate in our community, I see the results of solution-oriented decision-making, with job opportunities, easier access to goods and services, housing options, improved infrastructure, and increased economic growth.
I see projects created through collaboration between the city and developers that will provide value, benefit, and opportunity to the Lee Summit community.
I see growth in community and a way to connect more people to their food.
When I see the major road improvements underway, I see well-connected and safe transportation that enhances mobility and increases access to local businesses, spurring economic growth, safe deliveries to homes, and happy trips to ball games and activities.
I see improved roadways, added sidewalks, and shared use paths for pedestrians and cyclists, safe transportation and recreation for all.
I see better connectivity, increase lanes, less congestion, and just make it easier to get around.
When I see the investments we've made in public safety, I see enhanced emergency preparedness and first responders who are ready on a moment's notice to protect the community and deliver immediate life-saving care.
I see the city value its fire department employees come to fruition in recruitment, retention, and a positive culture.
I see a community that can respond to emergencies quickly. My whole family lives in Lee Summit, so there's a lot of peace of mind there.
What we do is not just about making decisions and funding budgets. It's about enriching the quality of life for all of our residents. It's about realizing that a building is not just steel and concrete, a park is not just metal and ropes, a road is not just asphalt, and a city is not just land. It's about the experiences we provide to all people of all generations and backgrounds.
This month's Council Member Spotlight is all about Mayor Bill Baird. Check it out.
I have always volunteered in the community and I was always really involved, but then I ran for school board. Whenever I got done with my term, I just felt like I had more to give. It's always been my goal from day one is to get everyone in the community connected and working together, and I always called it a spirit of community. Well, Mayor's 24/7 and I have a job. I've had to work really hard at compartmentalizing, is what I call it. So during this time, I'm going to do work. During this time, I'm going to be mayor, even though I can get a call at any moment about mayor stuff. And so I've had to even work that much harder at setting aside time for myself or for family. So I like to exercise, I like to work out. Hillary's my wife. She actually goes to work out with me as well. And we do like to go downtown to the shops. We make sure we maximize our time together. I mean, I've got 2 kids as well, and we spend a lot of time with them, or whatever time they will give us these days. And I have a dog. I think most people kind of know me know I have to have a dog. We have so much development going on, and we're growing fairly quickly, so we have a lot of infrastructure needs, and sometimes we have gaps in infrastructure, and we've always managed to get by, but with this kind of growth, we're really having to be creative and look at our options and just have a good plan for water, sewer, roads, and more. If we want to grow the most healthy way, we need a diverse economy. We do have a lot of retail that's opened up here, and there's been new construction for retail. We really need to focus in the future on bringing some, well-paying jobs here, good, strong employers that want to be located in this incredible community of now 101,000 people. A lot of our workforce does commute to work still, so they leave Lee Summit to go to work, and it'd be nice if we could keep some of those citizens right here in our community. The times I feel most proud are actually when I'm in the community and I see the community come together.
We have Buddy in the house. Mr. Mayor!
The tree lighting is always very fun. I always feel very proud. It's just a great warm feeling. The same thing goes for when the council will do something and we come together and make a good decision together. There's been a few of those that you go home feeling like a winner. And one of them was when we put together the downtown farmers market, when we bought the land, and it became real, all that hard work. But also the Diversity and Inclusion Commission, that was months and months of discussions and conversations that were really hard to have, and we went ahead and moved forward and as a council all together, and I was very, very proud of that. And there are a few things that the citizens have done that have really helped us tremendously. First, in the middle of a pandemic, they passed a use tax, which is a way for us to collect sales tax whenever someone purchases online. That helps shore up our revenues so that we can continue providing those high quality services that our city provides. And it helps us take care of our employees, it helps us with our public safety and more. So I can't be more thankful to the citizens for that. Lee's Summit has the opportunity to have a major impact on the economy in the Kansas City area. We already, as an economy, are rolling along with such a high median income. We have an amazing workforce here that are paying taxes, they're paying property taxes, they're paying sales taxes, they're keeping our economy rolling, and we really are getting the attention of all our neighbors. And I think that what's going to happen is you're going to see the opportunity for us to really get everybody's attention when businesses start moving here, bigger businesses and more so. You should try to find a way to give back to the community, whether it's at the city level, citizen committees, or just participating in some of our community conversations whenever we have those opportunities. It's worth coming out of your shell or taking that leap of faith and just showing up and saying, what can I do or how can I help? The more that we do this together, the more wonderful the community is.
Thanks for watching the Lee's Summit Rundown. I'm Laura Ingeman. See you next time.
Okay, welcome everyone.
Oh, she's over here.
Would you please stand for the invocation and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Heavenly Father, as we gather here today as City Council, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the long-term values of our actions, exerting our efforts in those areas and all those things which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better city for all. Amen.
Okay, again, welcome everyone. I'm calling to order the City of Lee's Summit regular session number 14. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Carlisle.
Present.
Councilmember DeMoro.
Present.
Councilmember Hodges.
Here.
Pro Tem Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Lovell.
Here.
Councilmember Pryor.
Here.
Councilmember Rader.
Present.
Councilmember Shields.
Here.
Mayor Beard.
Here. Thank you. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I have a motion to adopt the agenda by Councilmember DeMoro, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 9-0. Thank you. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Carlisle. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 9-0. Thank you. And then we have Council Roundtable. These are items of general interest, things going on in the community. Nope. Okay. Everybody must have just chilled on Labor Day. All right. Good. Then we will go to proclamations. Okay. We have Constitution Week. The Daughters of the American Revolution are here. Would you come forward with me? Hi. All right. Thank you for coming. Okay, I have a proclamation. Everybody bear with me. Whereas the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land that structures the government by defining the powers for each branch and setting forth a system of checks and balances. Whereas September 17th, 2024 marks the 237th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. Whereas the U.S. Constitution is the judicial guardian of our liberties and embodies the principles of limited government, dedicated by the rule of law over both the government and private persons. The Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution astutely outlines the uncompromised concept of freedom for all that includes freedom of speech, the right to assemble, the right to bear arms, and freedom from tyranny. And whereas the first three words of the U.S. Constitution, we the people, affirms our forefathers' conviction that government should serve its citizens. For these reasons, we celebrate the anniversary of the writing of this honorable and sovereign document. By virtue and the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Lee's Summit, I do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Thank you. All right. Can you say a few words and tell us your names?
Hello, I'm Regina Krause, and I am the Region of Prairie Chapter that is located here in Lee's Summit. And I am very appreciative of the mayor and the city of Lee's Summit for doing this for us. And this is...
I'm Julie Thomas, and I'm the Constitution Week Chair for our chapter.
Very good. I appreciate you coming in. Each year you make sure that we do the proclamation, and it's a great reminder for us all, so thank you. Would you take a picture with us? A little this way? Okay, so for the next, we're going to get to some business. We have a public hearing. I have to recuse on this. I have this property listed for sale with my real estate company. It's not a property that I own, but I do work with the client, so I'm going to step away and let Mayor Pro Tem Lopez take you through a public hearing.
All right. We'll keep it going. Thank you. I will now close the regular session and open the public hearing in the matter of PL 2024-158, special use permit for major automotive repair and sales of motor vehicles. 1000 Southeast Blue Parkway, CRB Industries, LLC is the applicant. All right. Does the applicant have a presentation? Oh, we need to swear. That's right. I forgot that.
Anyone wishing to speak regarding this matter, please stand, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christine Bushyhead, 315 Southeast Main, Lee Summit, Missouri, and I'm here for the applicant, Daniel Rextrafig of CRB Industries. This application is in essence a request for continuation of a land use that has occurred on the subject property for the last 10 years under the special use permit originally issued in 2014. I was actually the applicant's representative back in 2014. Haven't changed a bit. The reason for the application is we want to continue to have the ability to perform major automotive repair and outdoor sale or lease of motor vehicle equipment, which is a land use that can be operated in our zoning classification but needs a special use permit. As more specific to our request, the scope of the automotive repair historically and planned currently at this location will primarily involve classic automobiles, which will also be a primary focus of outdoor sales and lease of motor vehicles and equipment. The major, by UDO definition, which would include the repair of automotive bodies and/or major mechanical works, straightening of body parts, painting, and welding of the vehicles. In contrast, according to the UDO, minor repairs are those not requiring the removal of the engine head or pan, engine transmissions or differentials, but may include incidental body work, muffler replacement, brake service, lube and oil services, and glass installation and replacement. So I thought it might be important to kind of understand the difference between that minor and the major that we're asking for. The broader category of sales and lease motor vehicles provides flexibility and bartering involved in the classic used vehicle sales. For example, my client may wish to have the ability to conduct a transaction where they receive a vehicle that may be considered a classic car, or in exchange for maybe another vehicle that's not necessarily a classic car. And this could even include trucks of 1 ton or greater with 3 or fewer axles. So there's larger vehicles that can be then placed for sale on the property. The proposed uses are compatible with the adjacent automobile-related businesses and commercial uses. And the property zoning, of course, allows for a full range of retail and office uses. As stated on page 6 of the staff report, the proposed use achieves an objective of the IGNITE comprehensive plan to stimulate continued economic development, investment, and reinvestment by the private sector. Beginning in 2014, the activities sought to be performed under the special use permit were being performed by the owner and his affiliates, focused on primarily classic car renovation and sale. In March of 2020, That area of our economy, like many others, had a significant change. The impact of the governmental actions of the COVID-19 era was real for this property owner and business. In addition, in September of 2020, only 6 months later from the COVID shutdown, this subject property was included in the boundaries of the city-initiated 291 North and Highway 50 TIF plan, which began years of uncertainty as to how and when the subject property would be impacted by the potential highway access changes. Finally, in October of 2023, the proposed realignment of the northern half of 291 North and Highway 50 intersection was subject to a MoDOT project required public hearing, project design, and although not on schedule at this time and will not go under construction in October of 2024, the project seems to be moving forward. During the course of the COVID-19, Mr. Rutherford and his family relocated northwestern Arkansas to be closer to family. As their post-COVID reality settled, and with the now more predictable impact of the city's TIF plan on their property, the applicant is ready to invest and move forward with the same land use for the subject property. The facility still remains ideal in size and location on the property for major automotive repair and outdoor sales and lease of vehicles. We've actually had a tenant user ready to move forward this spring, though we first need to complete this process. And regardless of that potential, we do not anticipate any issues with the eventual tenanting of the space. It's important to note that during the 10-year tenure of the 2014 approved SUP, there were no negative impacts to the property or the surrounding area. On page 7 of the staff report, it is noted that no zoning violation cases were filed on the subject property during the life of the previously approved SUP. A neighborhood meeting was held on July 3rd, 2024. During the meeting, there were no concerns expressed by property owners, but rather it was a casual conversation centered upon the proposed use and if anything would be changing from the previous SUP, the answer being no. Furthermore, telephone conversations were had with 2 property owners who were unable to attend the neighborhood meeting to advise them of what the meeting was going to be about. Attendees included an owner of neighborhood duplexes and single-family homeowners. We received a unanimous recommendation for approval for this SUP from the Planning Commission, and when we arrived at the Planning Commission, we had 2 conditions to which the applicant expressed acknowledgement and acceptance. In short, landscaping with an approved landscaping plan and restriping of the parking lot. We left the Planning Commission with an additional condition where as to where we can store vehicles in disrepair or under repair, and 2 conditions from the property maintenance codes which we were required to follow as all property owners within the city of Lee Summit has to follow anyway. All of the conditions for approval are acknowledged and accepted by the applicant. This is the extent of our comments at this time. We'll be available for questions, or I'll be available for questions, and we would respectfully request your approval of this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have staff presentation?
Good evening, Hector Soto Jr., Senior Planner. I'd like to enter into the record Exhibit A, list of Exhibits 1 through 18.
Let's list for the record Exhibits 1 through 18. Please add into the record.
So as Ms. Bushy has stated, the application before you essentially special use permit application for the continuation of a land use that was originally approved in 2014 for major automotive repair, which she provided the definition for you. So just if one thing wasn't clear was when she defined minor automotive repair, minor automotive repair is a type of business where the scope of which is allowed right now that the applicant could operate under without any special approvals in front of the Planning Commission or City Council. So they're looking for that additional level of approval for certain uses that do allow for some more intensive automotive repair type uses, which has, as previously stated, was previously allowed 10 years ago. So the subject property is here. You can see On the south end of the site, you've got Blue Parkway, and it starts to transition when you go from that, I guess, next to, you have the vermilion color outlined in yellow for the existing facility, which was originally constructed in about 1986 as a car wash, and then there was an addition for some automotive repair about 2 years later in 1988. So as you can see, the commercial uses provided that transition from the highway to some industrial and residential uses to the north. The image on the right here is intended to depict the areas in which vehicles may be stored or parked for display for sale, or also just to be kept for repair. As has been stated here, there was a neighborhood meeting that was held, and there were no objections expressed at that meeting. So initially, here you see a strike-through area. The initial application did include a modification request to the parking lot screening. The applicant has since agreed to provide that parking lot screening along the Oldham or the Blue Parkway frontage. Here you see some images of the existing building. Like I said, it was constructed in about 1986. It's primarily a CMU block building. So the area in question here, basically where the old Sinclair dinosaur is located. There's a green area here. This would be the area in which the required landscaping would be provided to help bring some of the site to a more current standard, provide some screening, and provide just a little bit more aesthetic improvement to the site. So when considering the application, we put the particular use in the context of the surrounding area and the nature of those types of uses. The image on the left depicts here in red the subject property and all of the properties along that US 50 highway corridor on both sides, north and south, that are auto-oriented uses are depicted in yellow. So including the parcel immediately to the north, which is, I believe, Value Auto Clinic, the requested uses of auto sales and major automotive repair are consistent with existing uses along the Blue Parkway corridor on the north and the Oldham Parkway corridor in the south. One of the items that we were directed at the Planning Commission level to provide a little more, to make it a little more concrete, is to delineate or more clearly delineate the areas in which vehicles that are there for repair could be stored. So one of the conditions that's proposed references in Exhibit A, and the hatched area here in red is intended to depict the areas in which any vehicle that is here for repair would be situated, which would be essentially to the side or to the rear of the building. So no vehicle that is there for repair would be allowed in the front area. Now, in contrast, any vehicle that's there for sale, for display, could be located anywhere on the site, but we wanted to restrict the vehicles that are there for repair to the more northern reaches of the site. So there are 4 conditions of approval, including number 4 that does more specifically delineate the storage areas on the site depicted by Exhibit A. So with that, I'll yield to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Are there any questions for staff or the applicant? Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you. Okay, well, this question is going to be kind of weird, but the dinosaur, is it going to remain there? Is it, what are they? I know that's like a big, like, historical thing that people talk about a lot when it comes to Lee Summit.
Yeah, there are no plans to move it, per the applicant, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Is that it? All right, thank you. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Could you go to those conditions of approval again? So it's saying that it's going to be brought into compliance with the maintenance code. Is it standard when we have something like this to require that they be in compliance with all codes before they can get a special use permit, or is there a reason why that's added as a special condition? Like it sort of seems like it should just be understood, but I was just curious why.
In this case, it is a little bit of a belt and suspenders approach.
Okay.
It is something that that the planning commission did want to have a little bit more clear and in front of everyone, so there's an understanding between staff and the applicant of what the expectation is.
And is there any timeline on that? Like, is it within a certain amount of time before or after they get the permit, or?
It would be the 45 days, yes. So upon, if
Oh, okay, I
approved
see.
at the
Within
second
45
reading,
days.
yes,
Sorry.
it would be 45 days from there.
It's on your slide. That's my fault for not paying enough attention. Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions from council. We good? If not, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor or in opposition of the application? Don't see anyone. All right. Are there any additional questions? One last time, council? All right. If not, does the applicant care to make any more comments? No? Okay. And for the record, we noticed you said your appearance was the same as it was 12 years ago. So we know.
I'm sorry, I was under oath, wasn't I?
So it's on record. All right, thank you. With that being said, we will go ahead and close the public hearing and reopen the regular session. Is there any council discussion on this application? No. We're ready to move. Seeing no further questions or comments, Councilmember DeMore, I believe you're reading this to advance.
I move to advance to second reading, Bill number 24-157, an ordinance granting a special use permit for major automotive repairs and automotive sales in District CP2 on land located at 1000 Southeast Blue Parkway for a period of 10 years, all in accordance with Article 6 of the Unified Development Ordinance for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion made by Councilmember DeMoro. We have a second by Councilmember Hodges. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, please cast your vote. Is that all of them? I don't have the full.
All votes are in.
All votes are in.
Motion
Please,
passes.
please record the vote. It was unanimous. Thank you. Good timing.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to go back into the agenda. This would be agenda item 5, public comments. I know Ms. Vollenweider's here. Ms. Vollenweider?
Teresa Vollenweider, 5201 Northeast Maybrook Road. Line number 1, August 2017, me. Are you the ones cutting across my property where the fence and no trespassing sign is? Derek, no, we own that. They had the Horn, Collins Mullins deed, and they had the original and the retracement survey. That's their deed. That legal description comes from this. Line number 2. 50818, Stephanie Mullins, under oath at Planning Commission hearing. We have no intention of having a commercial baseball business. Lie number 3, 5/17/2018, Stephanie Mullins, under oath at the City Council hearing. We do not plan to have a commercial baseball business. Nathan Sanko, per phone conversation with Vollenweider, that's me, on 4/19/18. Derek Collins lost his job and would manage the baseball operation. I brought Stephanie Mullins' lies to the attention of Josh Johnson and received this response from him. Well, how do you keep her from lying? I was a bit shocked by that response. Behavior reported is behavior repeated again and again and again. He may not remember it, I do. I think Christina Stanton was there as well. 6/28/2022, hay bale fire. For a business, one needs an ingress and an egress, especially for liability insurance. Temp in hay bales was 80 to 82 degrees. Temp of 160 is required for spontaneous combustion. It was started by a person. Lie number 4, 8/11/2022, Stephanie Mullins, in an attempt to get the fence installers to quit installing fencing, states, she, referring to Vollenweider, that's me, is certifiable crazy, and I'm just telling you. Another Mullins lie. Lie number 5, 11/22/22, Stephanie Mullins accuses Vollenweider of harassing her family. Neighbors witnessed kids up by the Mullins-Collins swimming pool repeatedly yelling Teresa's name as she walked north across the field. Teresa, as usual, ignored them. If her kids were out on the street, which they never are, I wouldn't even recognize them. Lie number 6, 11/25/22. Beeman, have you ever had her trespassed from your property? Stephanie Mullins, this is in a phone conversation. Yeah, I mean, yes. She was out there trimming a tree. That's on our property. And when we called Officer Eisberg, like, Beeman, Eisberg, okay.
Okay, you're done, Ms. Vollenweider. And next time, I'm not going to sit through this again, Mr. Head. So you be ready next meeting that this should happen. We're not gonna go through this where you're just going to have a one-sided beratement of someone in the community without them here to defend themselves when we've been through this for how many years?
Had this done to
Since
me
18.
over and over again.
No, you haven't.
Yes,
You've
I
been treated
have.
with respect by
I
this
was
council and by that
arrested.
staff. That was you on your own, when you were back out on or close to your property.
On my own property.
Yeah, this won't happen again, Ms. Vollenweider. I promise you that. I promise you.
Public comment.
And you'll stick to public comments related to the agenda from now on.
That's not what the state says.
We'll make sure that we're following the laws, but we're not going to have you calling people liars, lie after lie. Making stuff up, probably.
That's not making stuff up.
You said that Josh Johnson wouldn't remember what he said.
Does remember that. I was shocked by the response. Like I said, Christina Stanton was there. She's not here anymore, but I'm sure.
We'll keep you in between the lanes next time. All right, we will move on to presentations. Talk about not standing in between the lanes, Jackson County tax levy. We get to talk about the fact that the school district has been shorted $4.8 million because of all of the appeals last year. Blue Springs School District shorted $3 million because of all the appeals last year. What fund do we get to look forward to this year?
Well, we're going to start off with just the process, and that's how this presentation started. However, last Wednesday and last Thursday, we did get our assessed values from Jackson County, which they say are final, but we did get the revision on Thursday, so we might see some more. So I'm going to just go through the process, and then we can talk a little bit about the levy as it stands right now. So the assessor is the one that assigns the market values. Sorry. Oh, it's down there. There we go. Thank you. So the county assessor assigns the market values for property as of January 1. That market value is assigned a ratio depending on residential, commercial, agricultural, residential 19%, commercial 32%. Jackson County required to give us preliminary assessed values by March 15th, and that's, I should say, in an odd-numbered year. So this year, the values, we got a letter that stated the values were exactly the same as they were in September. City required to provide a preliminary levy, non-binding levy, which what was presented to county clerk, was the same levy as last year, because there was no new information. Residents are required to submit property declarations by May 1st. Property owners can file appeals by July 1st. In July, Jackson and Cass County give us preliminary numbers. This July, we got preliminary from Jackson County, and I got preliminary and final from Cass. Jackson County provides final assessed values in early September. This was end of August this year, and the levy rates calculated for the public hearing. So what we get is a one-page summary saying that residential is this, new construction is this, no detail. So the city's required to publish notice of public hearing 10 days ahead of the public hearing. It'll be the 3 rates: general fund, parks and rec, debt service. It'll be published in the Lee Summit Tribune as well as the Pulse. The public notice, in the past, there's been a disclaimer on that public notice that says that it's posted as of the date that most recent data as of that date of the posting, which it has occurred that between the time that it's posted and the public hearing, that the data is actually different, and Jackson County or Cass can submit revised numbers to us. So there is a disclaimer on that. So after the public notice is posted, what might be at the public hearing could be different. It could be higher and it could be lower, and that's why the disclaimer is there. So before the public hearing, we submit the levy calculation to the state auditor. The state auditor reviews it and gives it back to us and certifies it. That's what we'll present at the public hearing. And then by October 1st, we submit to both Cass and Jackson counties. And then tax bills issued in November. So permitted revenue growth and revenue neutral provision of Hancock Amendment. Revenue neutral meaning same revenue that we received last year. So in that calculation, it excludes new construction for both real estate and personal property. So you can add a growth increase, 5%, or a CPI, which this year was 3.4%, whichever is lower. Currently, with the data that we have available to us, the growth is actually negative. So that means that there's 0 increase from last year's revenues, except for that of new construction. So looking at levy rate, this has changed since this was printed. So an example of a $300,000 home, and just throwing this in there for 2023 that it was increased by 15%. The levy increase from the city, this is only the city's portion of the total calculation that a homeowner would pay, was $29 increase for that 5%. Right now, it's $5 increase from last year's. So looking at increasing the general fund debt levy to 0.7971. The debt levy that we have said is going to remain the same at 0.3697, and parks at 0.1209. So the difference between the calculation that you originally received is 0.006. So that's not going there. So, other thing to note is that people's levies can change depending on the school district. So the only thing that changes is the school district tax levy. And these are 2023 because I don't have 2024 even preliminary numbers from any of the school districts. Also to show that the school districts are above 65% of the tax levy and we're about 15 to 18%. So that's all I have for tonight. If you have any questions, try my best to answer with the limited data that we have.
You went pretty quick, which
Yep.
is fine. But can you at least, before we start opening it up for questions, just very basically, go to the beginning where you're talking about assessed valuation, the numbers. So you're saying actual, did you use the numbers?
These numbers?
That? So the assessed valuation, can you tell us or look up what the assessed valuation is? What amount?
Yes.
Okay. And I just want to know what it is compared to last year, because based on what you're telling me it slightly went down, or basically it stayed the same.
It went down by about 50 million because of the new growth, the new construction. So if you didn't include the new,
Yeah, I'd like to see the numbers.
okay, they're up there now. I don't have last year's on here.
Expand it, and then go slow, so I don't have to.
I don't have last year's on here. I have from presentation. So last year's.
3.27 billion, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that does include the new construction. So if you go up one line above new construction, it's 3.316
Correct.
billion.
And last year was $3,302,603,315.
Okay. So before we open it up for questions, I mean, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not really when I say this. So values went slightly down in Jackson County and part of Cass, according to Jackson County.
Correct.
Which, do you know I'm in real estate?
Yes, sir.
And did you know that people's houses in Lee Summit went up in value last year considerably, as well as commercial?
Yes, sir.
Even with the new even with the interest rates and all the problems on the commercial side, properties for sure went up a little bit. So.
Yes, sir.
All right. And have they made any public comments about this yet?
No.
Okay. But they're okay with it being zero?
I've asked for detail. I have not received an answer.
I mean, what was the average increase last year? From
12.
From 22 to 23, because this
From
year it went
22
down.
to 23 was 22.63%.
That's what it ended up.
And this year, it's 0.42%, but you have to take out the new construction, and that's where you get the growth.
So it only ended up being 22%. Are you factoring in the appeals when you do that, 22%?
The county has told me that this includes all property valuations in the city, including appeals and protested property.
Okay. I'm going to open up for questions. Probably might ask you a few more when we get done. Councilmember DeMoro?
Thank you. Actually, I was going the same direction, but you've already answered that. I won't reiterate, but I wanted to go back to the new construction. You said new construction went down 50 million. I mean, okay, go ahead, I'll let you.
You have to back the 45, the 44, 551, 429. You have to back that out of the total valuation.
Okay. And of course, just a few seconds ago, actually, you said that reported to you that all the valuations in the county, or the county, the valuations were complete, but
They didn't say it was complete. They said that, the assessed values of all property within the city of Lee Summit is included in this valuation.
do you know, or do you know, have they accounted for all the new construction? Because that's always been a problem.
I do not. We do not get a parcel list.
Huh?
We do not get a parcel list.
I was just curious.
It would be very nice to have one.
Mr. Elam's been
Haven't
working on
changed
this
that
for
number
quite a few
quite-
years. Do you want
quite
to make a
dramatic.
comment, sir?
Ryan Elam, Assistant City Manager. We're continuing to work with Jackson County on the new construction matter, and we can't really talk about it until we have some further information from the county.
Okay, so, thank you. All right, and that's where I was gonna go, was new construction, because that's always been a big problem, as you probably know. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, thank you. Councilmember Shields?
Okay, so the numbers that you have up on the screen right now, these are both sets of numbers relating to this year's tax
Correct.
assessment. It's just that Jackson County
Correct.
sent you numbers on Wednesday and said they were final, and on Thursday said, oh, no,
Correct.
they're wrong, so here's what we think they actually are.
Yes.
So really, it's just the numbers at the top of the page, the ones that have a little 829 under them.
Yes.
That's what Jackson County is telling us currently, yeah?
Correct.
So how does that, this isn't a reassessment year, right? So we would expect that our values would be pretty similar to what they were last year, and then next year, the county will go in and do their craziness again.
They will
I understand you don't wanna editorialize,
they will
but-
reassess next year, yes.
Yeah, so
They can
other than
reassess.
new construction coming online, we wouldn't really expect the valuations to change just because they aren't doing a reassessment this year. They're not going through and reevaluating the value of every property in the county the way
They are
they
not,
do in
no.
odd years. Yeah.
They are not
Okay.
going through.
And then I think the big question that we get down to at the city level is what increase we would have for so we have to, you said early in the presentation, it's either CPI inflation up to a max of 5%, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is CPI this year?
CPI would be 3.4%.
So our decision as a city is whether to increase 3.4% or we can't increase at all.
You cannot increase at all because the growth is negative.
Okay, why is the growth is negative because?
Because if you took the total, and I apologize for not having 2023 on here, but if you took the 3.2 billion, last year's was 3.3
Okay,
billion.
okay.
So you have to subtract, make the difference out of that, and that difference is negative.
Okay. So we would have to we would have to lower our levy if the increase was more than the CPI, but our levy just stays the same because we're not hitting those caps, or am I picking that up right? Like
We can collect
Yeah,
the same amount of revenue we collected last year, plus new construction.
We just don't have the option to increase at all or
We don't,
capture.
we
There's
cannot
there's no
increase.
to capture.
Right, we can't increase the revenue, but because the assessed value actually went down, the levy goes up a little bit.
Okay, I got you. So
Okay.
the county says, last year you had $100 worth of value. This year you only have 90 because of depreciation or whatever. So we're gonna increase our rate just a little bit, so we still get the
So
same
we,
number of
so we still get
dollars.
the 100.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to, it's a lot of numbers, and I'm trying to work it through in my head, so
And
we'll
it's not easy,
increase our
and-
levy just a teeny bit so so we don't lose tax dollars this year?
Correct.
Okay, so it's our decision then as council to say that we want to not lose money. Like,
Well,
we could set it as low as we want, but we wouldn't have money to run the city.
Correct.
Right? Because I think
I
that's
mean,
just
you
important
could,
to know,
you
like,
could
what our
lower the
policy-
levy if you wanted
But
to
that's,
and
like,
get
that's the
decreased
policy
revenues.
decision
Yes.
that we have to make is.
Yes, ma'am.
The recommendation from staff is to increase the levy just a teeny bit so that we don't lose money because our assessed valuation went down a little bit. Yeah, okay. Which I think makes sense because we have firefighters to pay and streets to pave, but I just want to make sure that we all understand.
Yes.
And I appreciate you coming and doing this presentation before we actually have the hearing, so that we all
Yes.
know what we're gonna have to vote on in a few weeks. So, thank you. Those are all of my questions. I know I was
Okay.
kind of
No?
peppering you, but I really appreciate the clarification, because it is confusing for someone who's not a finance person.
It's confusing,
Yeah, which is me.
for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you mind if I just banter with Mr. Bushek for a second?
You can do that.
I haven't got to talk to him in a while, so I just thought I'd make him come forward. So, like, you've worked in different parts of the state. Do they have like on non-assessment years, like a CPI, almost like a small increase for years like this? I mean, you can't build that into it so that, I mean, let's say you wanted to fix the fact that your assessments were really short. Wouldn't you have assessment years and then in the off years have a slight increase to get you caught up to the assessment value, such as the 3.41, just like the
Typically, in the even number of
CPI?
years, they don't. They can assess new construction that's occurred as of January 1st that year, but generally, I don't think that's the practice.
Okay. So then the other thing that was mentioned was you would expect it to be the same the year of a non-assessment.
So
An assessment means they're actually doing an assessment, but when, I mean, come on, there's got to be some common sense in government somewhere where inflation and everything is going through the roof and prices are going through the roof, and you're saying that you're going to value it at the exact same? I mean, they came pretty darn close, almost the exact same.
So I think I can condense my thoughts into 3 comments. Number 1, I suggest that we move forward with the numbers that are before you, which are the numbers that have been delivered by the county. Second, I think all of the answers that she provided to you tonight are accurate based on these numbers. Third major point, we're in litigation with the county. I have thoughts about the numbers that I'm seeing, and I shouldn't say any more tonight.
All right, I'll stop. That's fine.
Thank you.
I
And
mean,
this is-
come on, I've got a year and 8 months in this seat. I got to get my shots in while I can, that this is not reasonable, this is not common sense, and this is not a good system, and this is not good assessment. But that's just my opinion.
Your legal counsel may agree with you, but we need to be cautious what we're
All
saying
right.
at this point. Yes, thank you.
All right, are there any further questions? We're going to end up raising our levy slightly, how much? If it were these numbers?
0.66%. Yeah,
Yep.
yes, it's 0.66% increase over tax year 23.
Over tax year 23. Okay. Well, you know, none of this was directed at you. You're doing a great job. Wonderful. And I mean, you have to make the phone calls and do all the hard parts. So thank you for all that.
You're welcome.
Yep. Mr. Dunning, you have any comment? You want to get in trouble?
Wait for the public hearing, I guess.
All right.
All set?
Very good. Well, then, yes, thank you. You had some tough acts to follow, you know, Betty had to come up here and put up with this, and Conrad before that. I mean, that was very concise, and boom, you nailed it. So we'll go on to resolutions. Well, Ms. Weber, you're acting in this role tonight. Would you please read resolution number 2411?
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution adopting the City Council schedule of meetings for 2025.
Well, this is the schedule. This is the schedule of meetings. They just basically handed this to me, and I looked at it. And usually I get to give some kind of input, but there wasn't anything very complicated about this one. It just was easy this year. Because there's always something, there's always a conflict, but this one seemed to kind of line up. We can always amend this later, though. All right, I have a motion to adopt this resolution by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Carlisle. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in, please record the vote. Passes 9-0. Thank you all. And council, wow, we already on council comments? Goodness. What? Oh, here we go. I was like, what happened? Well, you know, I'm off tonight. Oh, proposed ordinances, first reading. Councilmember Rader, would you please read bill number 24-158?
Mayor, I move to advance to second reading bill number 24-158, an ordinance renewing the City of Lee Summit's procedure for disclosures of potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials pursuant to Section 2-75 of the Code of Ordinance for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-158 by Councilmember Rader, seconded by Councilmember DeMoro. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember Hodges.
Thank you. So when I was reading through this last week, when we first got this, it's kind of the first time I had really seen it, but I just had a few questions. I didn't know if maybe it could be clarified, just so we have a better understanding. So when it says, so in section B, when it says, can you define direct or indirect, or can you define where it says direct or indirect personal or private interest, just for clarification? Because what exactly does that mean? Like, how interested or invested? It's too broad.
You are 100% correct. There are lawyers who make their career out of defining those terms in this particular statute. This does come directly from the statute. We didn't make, this isn't us. This is a required ordinance that we need to pass. The requirement is you pass it biannually, so every other year. We do pass it every year just so we don't forget. A direct or indirect interest is so fact-specific, it's difficult for me to even give you guidelines. You know, if somebody was directly invested in something that came in front of the council, for example, you were an investor and owner in a corporation, clearly that's a pretty clear one. But is it enough that, you know, it gets further and further away, or it gets more and more indirect? It's incredibly fact-dependent, and there's an entire body of law that when we have these questions arise, we just go search the ethics opinions and we search the legal opinions on that. I 100% agree with you. It's very difficult to pin down until you have a specific fact pattern that you're trying to look at.
Okay, so I guess would that be the same answer for the part where it talks about direct or indirect substantial, which I'd be curious to define substantial, because when it says financial interest, who considers what's substantial and what isn't?
I believe substantial is defined sort of by reference in the state statute, and it talks about things like interest of 10% or more of the stock of a company, or a value of more than, trying to remember, $10,000, I think is what it says. So there is a definition for substantial interest, but the direct and indirect part is much more difficult to pin down without that specific fact pattern. But there are definitions in the statute that we refer to in this ordinance as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Questions, discussion? Okay. Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 9-0. Thank you. Councilmember Pryor, would you please read bill number 24-159?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance to a second reading, bill number 24-159, an ordinance approving the real estate sale agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and RTC Real Estate LLC and Excel Holdings LLC for the purchase of property by the city for the airport and fire station number 8.
You have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-159 by Councilmember Pryor, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 9-0. Thank you. Councilmember Hodges, would you please read bill number 24-160?
I advance to second reading bill number 24-160, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and QuikTrip Corporation.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-160 by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Councilmember DeMoro. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It does move to second reading unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Carlisle, would you please read Bill number 24-161?
Thank you, Mayor. I move Bill number 24-161, an ordinance approving a real estate agreement between Oldham Investors LLC and the City of Lee Summit, Missouri for the purchase of property located at 101 Southwest Oldham Parkway within the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, be second read.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 24-161 by Councilmember Carlisle, seconded by Councilmember Rader. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast. Okay, hold on.
I hit that last second. I was just wondering if we could have a really brief explanation of what this property is.
Sure. Councilmember, or Mr. Bushek?
I don't need a 20-minute presentation, just wonder if you could give a little bit of background.
Sure, I can do the 2-minute summary. David Bushek, Chief Counsel of Economic Development and Planning. This is for about 8.5 acres of property within the boundaries of the Oldham Village project, and I'm looking for there's a map attached that picture is worth 1,000 words. No, I don't know if I brought that with me. It's about 8.5 acres of the 50 or so acre site that is the Oldham Village project that will be coming forward to the City Council probably in November.
Is that the field house site?
Yes, that's for the field house.
Okay, that's mainly what I was wanting to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Half acres should give us hopefully enough room for parking. All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 8-1. Takes us to proposed ordinances second reading. Shields, would you please read Bill number 24-133?
Thank you, Mayor. I move sorry, this is approval, right? Yes, okay.
Second reading.
I move for adoption of Bill number 24-133, an ordinance authorizing the City of Lee Summit, Missouri to issue taxable industrial development revenue bonds in the principal amount not to exceed $65,700,000 in connection with the Tudor and Douglas Apartments project and authorizing certain documents and actions in connection therewith.
Okay, this is the one where we're going to have Mr. Bushek come forward. Last time when we did first reading, I don't think you were here, or I didn't do a good job. You weren't here. I'm not you. So talk to us about this issuance.
So this is a case where picture's worth 1,000 words. So this is a listing of all the ordinances that the City Council has passed connected with this project. And then the highlighting is mine, just so you can key in on the key event with each ordinance. There was a real estate agreement between the city and the buyer, which was Archview Properties, a subsidiary or connected entity to Cityscape. And then that contract was extended 3 times. And then in the middle, there was the rezoning and preliminary development plan approval. And then in December of 22 was the approval of the Chapter 100 plan. And so this would be the implementation documents for that plan.
It did take a while. Okay.
And I think a little explanation of the real estate contract and its extensions. Starting in 22 was inflation. Inflation really started to take off. And that was the point at which a lot of the construction projects that had already received some sort of approval from you, such as a zoning approval, kind of stalled out. There's a lot of projects that incentives have been approved, and you've seen them on the list that I've presented to you from time to time, but they're in red because they're still pending projects. Some of them have received conceptual approval, some have received plan approval, and then the agreements to implement them don't come until later because they haven't decided to move forward until now. So that's the explanation for this history, and there's some other projects in the city that follow a similar pattern.
Well, this was, this development was under quite a bit of discussion. And there wasn't, a huge consensus on this one. So what about now that we're here? I mean, my concern is just that if these things don't pass, that there is more to our responsibility. Like, how are we liable, I guess is what I'm asking, those types of things.
I don't know if I have a good answer for you right now. And if I did, I'm not sure I would want to say it publicly, because we're now talking about potentially, a situation that we want to talk about confidentially.
Okay.
At that point.
All right, that's fine. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, only because I don't fully understand, but so I've been reading lately that the demand for multifamily has been stalling a little bit. So what happens if after this is approved, if this development stalls?
I'm probably not the best person to answer that question. We have others here, Director of Planning and Development and people who are more up on that information than I am. But I think from a basic answer would be, if the project is constructed, then those units would be available, and if there's lower demand, then they wouldn't fill as much. I mean, I'm just kind of doing the basic math on what happens if your scenario plays out. It wouldn't be occupied as much as if there was a higher demand. That's a really basic answer. But as to what the current trends are and so forth, I'm not really up on that, or I'm not sure I'm qualified to speak about that at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lovell?
I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but and this is what the representative from, I can't remember, maybe it's Gilmore and Bell last week said, the risk to us by issuing these bonds. So what I think was confusing to us is the mechanism we're using here, because we usually deal like Chapter 100 and some of these other things. And so I think that was where, like, at least my initial confusion was like, what is this? And maybe further explanation as to what we're issuing, what the city's risk is, right? So that's where we're, and just making sure everything's good there.
Yep, so we have had that discussion numerous times. There's a council member that's no longer on the council who used to regularly ask me that type of question. Whenever we had a lease in front of the city council, either through the LCRA or through Chapter 100, his question was frequently, tell me about the lease and what are our protections? And I have talked with the council about that. The lease, and so this is where I can just list some issues, and then each of these issues have a lot of subparts, but I'm just going to touch on the main things that we have protections built into the lease very generally. Title to the property and compliance with laws. The city holds legal title to the property only. The company is certifying that the property is suitable for the project, and from that point, the company builds the project and takes care of the project. The city owns title only just to facilitate the incentive that's being provided. Construction of the project is entirely the company's responsibility. The company insures it. The city is insured and indemnified. The company is responsible for environmental matters. There's rent provisions to cover additional city costs in the event that the city incurs additional costs at some point, which is very rare. Company is responsible for maintenance and repairs. Company is responsible for any taxes and assessments. In terms of property taxes, the schedule that we've established through this incentive is what's followed for 10 years. It's not on the property rolls, and that's how the incentive works. But if there's any other miscellaneous taxes or assessments, the company's responsible for that, not the city. The company has to provide their own title insurance. They have to carry property insurance, commercial general liability insurance, workers' compensation insurance, and the city's named as an additional insured. In the implementation and administration, the company can't allow any liens to attach to the property, and if they do, they're responsible for discharging those liens. If the city is sued, then the company has to defend and pay for the defense of the city. The company is responsible for any damage, destruction of the property. If there, unlikely event there's any condemnation, we work with them on the condemnation issue. I don't think that would be the case here, unless there's some condemnation needed by the city, but I don't think that's an issue in this property. There's a number of special covenants. They have to make all repairs. They have to restore the property at the company's expense. They bear responsibility for the risk of loss of the buildings, improvements, furniture, trade fixtures, machinery, et cetera. So I think you get the idea that there's a lot of protections built in here.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so
I'm going to admit that I'm actually a little bit more confused about where we're at after all that than I was before. Okay, so I'm looking at this whole list of ordinances, and I feel like the only one that really impacts what we're doing tonight is the Chapter 100 project.
Correct.
The fact that this was property that the city sold or whatever really isn't pertinent to what we're talking about
Not
right
relevant, but I was asked to pull all the ordinances that touch on this property to
Okay.
give you a full snapshot of all the ordinances that
Okay.
you've approved dealing with this property.
now. Oh, fair enough. But basically, in December of 2022, we approved a Chapter 100 incentive plan, right?
Correct.
And that is that just, that sales tax exemption, and then is it going to be partial property tax like pilots?
Sales tax exemption on construction materials and a fixed pilot for a period of 10 years.
Okay. And so the council at that time approved that plan. It's been a couple of years, not quite 2 years, a year and a half, because we're not to December yet, but, you know, year and a half, 2 years. And now they're actually ready to move forward with the project because things were stalled out because inflation and things got crazy. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, so I remember that the reason they provided for requesting the extension starting in, you see, July of '22 and then working our way through '22 was the inflation. We're still, this was like wave number 2 or maybe 3 of COVID, depending on how you were counting it. That was still in play. We had inflation starting in '22. They decided to wait and request these extensions, wait on purchasing the property, and then they faced the question again at the end of last year, should we wait again? Should we request another extension with the city? And our advice as city staff is, I probably wouldn't do that again if I were you. So they went ahead and purchased the property at the end of last year, but that's the story of why the extensions and the history of the purchase.
So they bought the property at the end of 2023,
Yes,
and now it's September of 2024, 8-9 months later or whatever.
and they're presumably ready
And
to
they're
move forward.
ready to move forward, and that's why we're here today.
And Kurt
Yeah.
Peterson's here to speak to that if you'd like to hear from him.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to understand.
Yes.
So they bought the property, it's 9 months later, they're ready to start construction, and now, because we already approved the Chapter 100, tonight we're voting on an implementation document,
That's exactly right.
right? And why are there bonds? What's an industrial development revenue bond? And the cities, I think we kind of talked to the last time this came up, the city's not on the hook for those bonds. There's nothing that could happen, no default in the world that could happen where we end up having to pay $65 million, right?
That is all correct. So
Okay.
there's basically, the simplest way to think about it is there's 2 transactions. There's a bond transaction and a real estate transaction. The city takes ownership of the property at closing, and that's how the property becomes tax exempt. And then the pilot schedule for a period of 10 years kicks in. So the city owns the property, and that's the end result of the real estate transaction.
Right.
There's also a bond transaction that needs to be used under Chapter 100. So the city issues the bonds, but the company buys the bonds. So the company goes and gets a loan, the company buys those bonds, the money that they buy the bonds with are put into an account, and then they draw that money out to construct the project. So it's entirely privately financed, and the city would never have to pay for any of those bonds under any
So
circumstances.
this is just all a way to make the tax incentive work legally, but it's not something that's ever going to put us on the hook.
That's a great summary.
So it's just effectuating something that we already approved on property that we sold to them to do this.
Yes.
Okay. I think I understand what we're doing. I think it makes sense to me. But if anybody else was confused after that, feel free to ask questions to understand more. Okay, okay.
Yeah, and it's to maybe bolster where you're going with the thought process, it's more normal for there not to be a real estate transaction that involves the city in the mix.
Right.
And then after the plan's approved, the bond documents come forward 2-3 months later, and you don't have this stretched out history based on everything that I explained.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Further discussion or questions? You, Mr. Bushek. Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Shields. I need a second, please. And a second by Councilmember Carlisle. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 7-2. All right, and then we have Councilmember Lovell, we have Bill number 24-134. Would you please read for second reading for adoption?
I move for adoption, Bill number 24-134, an ordinance repealing Ordinance number 9871 related to the schedule of fees and charges for the City of Lee Summit and establishing a new schedule of fees and charges.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 24-134 by Councilmember Lovell, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Discussion. Yes, Councilmember Rader.
Thank you, Mayor. I am still not in favor of this ordinance, as it is seeking approval of the park impact fees, which I'm not for, so I will not be supporting this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing further discussion. I know we discussed this a lot before, so I will call for the vote. And all of the votes are in. Please record the vote. It does pass 5-4. All right, that takes us to committee reports. Oh, yes, Councilmember DeMoro.
Thank you. 11:30 Monday, which will be the 9th, we will have a legislative and intergovernmental meeting at 11:30 a.m. and then the same day, I'm trying to find out, let's see, 4 o'clock, 4:30, a Public Works meeting on Monday, the 9th also.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. We will have Finance and Budget Committee meeting tomorrow, which is not our normal day, but we had to move it due to Labor Day. So 4 p.m. in chambers tomorrow. And then myself, Councilmember Lovell, and you, Mayor, all attended LSEDC's board meeting today. I think it was a good meeting. We had some more discussion about invoicing of investors and coming up with a schedule for doing that. A little bit of discussion about, entering into an executive director search in the future and the PSA that they're going to request eventually. It's there, if folks will recall, the original letter agreement that we had with the EDC expires October 15th, and so they may choose to exercise one of those 60-day extensions, but it does seem like they're on track to hit the benchmarks that they needed to hit and come to us to request a PSA. My hope is in October, but I feel like before the end of the year. So I just wanted to give that update so everybody is aware of the progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rader.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm the liaison, of course, to the Park Board, and I didn't get to attend the meeting. They're always good meetings, but I'm glad we have videos so I could watch later. I did want to say that I know they're really excited about the field house, the agreement to purchase, and this is an exciting thing for Lee Summit. And then also, I think a lot of people will be excited because they have their Longview Master Plan getting ready to take off, and we're going to have a pickleball complex over on that side of town. It sounds like they're going to be able to start with their master plan immediately. They should have 2 to 3 months to get that ready, and then they're talking about starting construction of that in the spring of 2025. Joe may want to talk more about that, but it's pretty exciting for Little League Summit. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. I was actually just looking at the Sign Up Genius for Oktoberfest. It's coming up at the end of September, and it takes a lot of volunteers to make the event successful, and there are still quite a few openings for on the Sign Up Genius. So feel free to sign up and volunteer. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. I think we are, yes, on council comments. Councilmember Pryor. Nope, that was from last time, I think.
No, I was actually just going to say, so Councilmember Shields just brought that up. I feel like District 1 really overshadows every other district as far as fun activities. We have downtown days and Oktoberfest and, yeah. True. What do you guys get?
Well, we have more fun people in District.
Oh, Legacy Blast. That's a good one.
We blow things up.
Well, then I guess Betho and Cinda, what do you guys have? Yep. I'd say District 1's the best, so thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Dunning, we're staff roundtable.
2 quick work anniversaries. Crystal Weber, Assistant City Manager, 11 years today.
Nice.
And then Chief Chief Forbes, as of yesterday, 10 years with the city. So a lot of municipal service in the room.
Thank you. We're going to need someone to read us into the closed session. Sir, would you? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Nope.
Pursuant to Section 610021 of the revised statutes of the state of Missouri pertaining to legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body, and any confidential or privileged communication between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorneys, and pursuant to Section 610021 of the revised statutes of the state of Missouri pertaining to the leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate by public governmental body where public knowledge of the transaction might adversely affect the legal consideration. Therefore, I move for closed session.
Second.
I have a motion to move into closed session by Councilmember DeMauro, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Discussion? Seeing none, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Shields?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle?
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor?
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges?
Aye.
Councilmember Lovell?
Aye.
Councilmember Rader?
Aye.
Councilmember DeMauro?
Aye.
Mayor Baird?
Aye. Everyone have a good night.
That appears spot on.